Hi, Chris.
Hello there.
How are you? And welcome to Gigi and the 561. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you. It is a pleasure. And I love the title of your show. Now I've got to ask you, how did you get that title? I love it.
Oh, thank you. Well, Gigi, I have many nicknames, some of which I won't even say on air. But Gigi is the one I treasure the most because our 8-year-old granddaughter, we have one son and one granddaughter, and that's what she calls me. And so it's really special to me. 561, that's our area code here in the Palm Beaches.
I love it. That's great. That is great.
Thank you. Thank you. You're so gracious to be here today, and I want our listeners to know the wonderful person I'm talking to. A few years ago, I had the good fortune, to have an interview with this lovely lady. She was very gracious to me in the interview, and it has been on our website ever since then, northpalmbeachlife.com. Chris Costello is a woman wearing many hats, and let me just put it right out there. She is the daughter of the iconic, the famed entertainer Lou Costello of Abbott and Costello fame. But she has done so much in this time of all these years of being here. And Chris, you wear so many hats. You're an award-winning podcaster. I have to tell you, I'm a little bit jealous of the award-winning part, but I think it's great, the podcast that you do, because your dad not only was just absolutely iconic figure in the world of entertainment, but he was a great humanitarian, and that's what really jumped out at me about your particular podcasting. You caught that gene, and you're pushing that forward, and you're carrying that on by doing these very compelling podcasts. So kudos.
Sam. Thank you. Well, basically I can't take all the credit because, you're only as good as the people behind you.
Right.
And I've got a great producer, Pamela Wise, and also a phenomenal sound engineer up in San Francisco, June Miller with JMC Sound. But I think what I was trying to do was to give a voice, to those that needed to have their story told. I think it's important. We all have a story regardless.
Yes.
Of how successful we are. We all have a story. And if you just kind of, I always say, unravel the layers, you'll find some amazing people, who have all these hidden talents and gems. And so that was really the purpose behind the podcast. We incorporate a lot of the sound bites. So it's almost like a pod you documentary, whatever you would call it, But it's fun. You're right. I wear many hats. I call myself the multi-hyphenate at times. But I think, if I weren't doing all of this, I think I would be probably very, very, very bored because I have to keep active.
You're right.
So,
well, let's tell everyone.
The same way, Pam, I can feel your energy.
I am. I truly am, Chris. And boy, especially this last year. Woo. Let's tell everyone, though, the name of your podcast, because I don't believe I said it, and I meant to. Tell everyone.
It's On Cue, CUE, Chris Costello. And we're on all the leading major, podcast apps. Now, if anybody is interested or if they can't find it, which they should be able to, let me give you an email address that they can email us, which is Chris, CHRIS, at chrisonq.com. And but you should be able to find it on any and all of the leading platforms.
Yeah, it's easy to find, everyone. It really is. So and go there and listen, because you really draw people out in such a great way. I really do greatly admire your podcasting that you're doing. But you're also a writer, and so we'll circle back and really dig down. But you're about to do, are you not, a new book? Or tell us about your writing.
No, I'm not doing a new book. No.
Okay.
What happened was that when COVID hit last year, of course, everybody's on lockdown. And, I kept thinking to myself, okay, my book, Lou's on First, and my dad came out in 1981, 82, I believe, St. Martin's Press. Lasted 22 years in print. Not a bad review, thank God, knock on wood. It was a story I felt that needed to be told. And so I was thinking, I thought, maybe I should start now looking into putting it into an audiobook, because God knows we all have the time. And so my wonderful producer, Pam Weiss, was really an instrumental force behind this, and she kicked it all into gear and threw the throttles forward, and we created a studio called Studio C right here, and to do all of the I have a humongous walk-in utility area, which could almost be made into a little sound studio, and that's where Studio C was born. And that's where the audiobook was done, and I incorporated a bonus chapter. So people have been wanting to know, well, what happened following your mother's death after my dad in 1959. Yeah. And it kind of gives them a walkthrough as to what happened to everybody. And, it's I'm pretty proud. I'm mighty proud of it.
You should be.
They can purchase, off of Amazon, Audible. Again, any of the leading audiobook apps, they're going to find the book.
Now tell everyone the name again.
Okay, it's Lou's on First. Very easy.
It's very easy, especially if you are a Abbott Lou Costello fan. Clearly, that's a perfect title. So now, now I did check Amazon. Is everything available still in print and audio?
Well, the book went out of print back in the early 2000s, I think, 2000 or something. And then we have the ebook, which was put out by Crossroads Press, and they can find the ebook through Amazon, any of the leading, online platforms. And then now it's the audiobook, and soon we'll be putting out just a very limited collector edition of the audiobook in CD format, but we're only going to make it very limited edition.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they can get that through Amazon as well?
No, that will not be furnished through Amazon. This is something that I'm doing. I'm funding it on my own, and we just finished all the graphics. It's beautiful, but again, we're only making so many copies of it. And, hopefully, we'll sell out on those. So, but people have been asking about it. So I thought, okay.
Well, the Bud Abbott Lou Costello memorabilia is huge. And are you responsible for managing all that, Chris? Or do you have help with that? How in the world do you do everything?
No, first of all, the Abbotts have their estate. The Lou Costello estate is with my sister and my sister Carol's kids. Okay. The only thing that the Costellos own outright would be the television show series and Hey Abbott. That was Dad's company. That was Dad's project. That was his baby, back in the early 50s.
Right.
So the estate still controls that. And but we all, do our part, to keep the legacy going. And I think I just fell into it naturally because of doing the book, doing a lot of the research. Yeah. I really kind of dove in with Bud Jr., back in the 80s with the release of Abbott and Costello Live, which was put out by Warner Home Video. And we basically created a revival. And from there, it just snowballed. And Bud was a gem, just a gem to work with. So,
that is great.
Yeah.
Well, what's funny about the movies, we have so much to talk about with you, but I just want to say just this one thing. You never know where they're going to pop up. Just the other night, after we had scheduled our this podcast together, it's late at night, and like you said, we have plenty of time on our hands. And I was watching a movie from the 80s. It's Into the Night with Michelle Pfeiffer and Jeff Goldblum. It's just a fun movie. It's just but there in one of the scenes was in the background on the television screen. You see Bud Abbott Lou Costello movie. It's like you just never know.
That's funny.
Yeah, it was. It was really very cool.
Funny.
Yeah,
that is funny. I know a lot of times they'll pop in Who's on First, and a couple of series, have put in the background either a poster or them, on television. So it's always good to see, and it's so nice that the producers or the powers to be would think enough of them to incorporate them. So we're always very thankful about that.
Yeah, that was really, I thought, very fun. Now, tell me, if you will, tell my listeners, you're so involved in travel, in the world of travel, and this year has killed us all in that regard.
Well, it went on life support, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, I want to believe that, Chris. I want to believe it's coming back.
It is. I think it's a slow crawl. I think there's so many factors involved, and then you've got the world of cruising, which you love, and that's what I specialize in the travel industry. I love cruising myself, but I have to say, the cruise market, they have done and made phenomenal strides. To protect their crew, to protect their guests. They have just done everything, that they were told to do. And I feel it's going to be very safe to travel. I know that there are clients of mine that have already started booking for end of this year, early in 2022. I'll tell you, the market that really picked up was the riverboat market here in the U.S.
Really?
Yes. American Steamboat Company, American Cruise Lines, they're all doing phenomenal business.
Wow.
And it's kind of a nice experience. Some people do not want to travel farther than, the U.S. right now.
Yeah.
And, and I can understand why. People want to get the vaccines first, this and that. Yeah. But I will say one thing for anybody who is putting any of their travel into effect now is to make sure you contact cruise lines and make sure you understand whether there is supposed to be a vaccine mandate, to board the ship. Yeah. Because all the cruise lines are different. They're all complying with CDC. So it's just good if you don't work with a travel agent, to do that.
Yeah. You have to know going in. You do. You have to do your homework. You have to be informed. I'm curious, though, what on the river cruises, if you don't mind talking about that for a second, where would you where would you go? Where do they start from? Where's the starting point?
It depends. First of all, like with American Queen Steamboat Company, and I do a lot of bookings with them. I've traveled on them. I've done lectures on them back in the 90s. It depends on where you want to go. If you want the Pacific Northwest and retrace Lewis and Clark, my God, they've got a spectacular trip out of there, the sailing. You have the lower Mississippi, the upper Mississippi, Ohio, Cumberland. It depends on what you're looking for. So some people want to do the Civil War route, so that's a section of the Mississippi. But it just really depends, seriously.
Okay. Well, that is really surprising because I had no idea about that.
They're wonderful. I'll tell you, there's nothing in the world like being on an actual riverboat. And, of course, now they're very upgraded and very modernized. But you know, the paddle wheel feel, it's Mark Twain time. It's
that is so cool.
Really, it's great. I always encourage people to do it just once. When I was lecturing, I remember the first cruise that I did on them, I was fascinated at night. I would sit out there at night, and I would watch in the pilot house where they would spot the shore with this, high beam light. And you would just see this light tapping the shore on both sides. And they would do, somebody explained it to me, is that they were doing it to make sure that they were not getting too close to, the shoreline.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting, fascinating journey, and they've got some beautiful new ships coming out. The Countess and the Duchess with American Queen Steamboat Company. And again, there's American Cruise Lines, which is also very good. And they also travel the rivers, but they can also cut into the coastal areas. Mm-hmm. So it just depends what somebody is looking for.
Yeah. Well, it's good to know something positive is happening in being able to move around at all, because I think you're right about international travel. I think it's going to be tough for a while.
I'll tell you what's really beautiful. You want to see something spectacular. You book a riverboat cruise during Christmas time in Charms of the South, where you visit the antebellums, and they all have the homes decorated for Christmas. Oh, my God. And you walk in, and you smell that cinnamon, and that warm, Christmassy, smell. It's something really spectacular.
That sounds wonderful. And, if we could do something like that this year, after this time that we've had, that would be so great.
Oh,
that
yeah.
would be
absolutely
wonderful. I want to circle back to your podcast. Let me say again, out of pure jealousy, you're award-winning. You won the Communicator Award for a very specific podcast that you did. You bring on really compelling people, and the one that was the winner, I guess, as you were recognized for, was for Francis Gary Powers.
Yes.
And that, how do you manage to find these really compelling people that are willing to talk about their experiences and so forth? And is there someone that you're really dying to have on your podcast
I can answer that, absolutely. Well, first of all, I knew Gary Powers when he was a teenager. I knew his mom. His mom was a dear friend of mine. And Gary and I had reacquainted ourselves after all this time. He had moved out of L.A. He went to school back in Virginia. And he's such a hard worker. He started the Cold War Museum. He was really, really, protecting the legacy of his dad. He wrote a couple of books. He's a wonderful human being. Wonderful. And he's a great lecturer. And he's somebody you would love to have on your show. Seriously, he's great. Oh. And so I thought, okay, that's going to be my first podcast, because
that was your first one.
Gary, that was the first one. That's with Gary Powers.
Wow.
Yeah, and then what we did is we decided, well, wait a minute, I had this brainstorm, that with Khrushchev, of course, the Cold War, Khrushchev, Francis Gary Powers, you two being downed over Russia. And I thought, I believe Sergei Khrushchev, the son, lives in Rhode Island. He does. We got him through Gary. So we had not only Gary, we did a second show. We had Sergei Khrushchev. And I believe it was Sergei's last interview before he passed away.
I was going to say, he passed away. Yeah. Wow, Chris, that is impressive.
But then we've also done, like Lieutenant Colonel Polidor, who was the first female to pilot the B-2 stealth bomber and fly over the Rose Parade last year.
That.
I mean, a woman who's really, we talk about crashing through the ceiling. And we had Elizabeth Beisel, Olympian, who was a wonderful interview. And we just did Kate Smith. We interviewed her wonderful niece, Susie Andron, and her husband, Bob. And, I thought, we need a little patriotic stuff here, some storylines.
Yeah.
And I'm very proud of that segment. And that's the latest one. And who would I love to interview? Well, here's one for you. The other night I was watching the movie that was released last year, but I saw it on Netflix, called I Am Woman, on Helen Reddy. Now, I was a big Helen Reddy fan.
Yeah.
In fact, I met her in Japan when I was on a singing tour there back in the 70s. Well, I loved her music. I loved her message. And I think I appreciate the message now more than I did back then.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I thought, wow, would I love to interview her son or her daughter and do a terrific podcast that really can expose her even more, to a younger generation.
I think that's fantastic, because Billy and I met her back in his rock music reviewer days, and I found her, and I recently told some people this, she was so unassuming. She was not like, she didn't walk in the room and own the room necessarily. She just was there with her presence. And I think that would be a great podcast, Chris.
Oh, my God. Well, if your husband can help me locate.
You know what? As soon as we're done with this podcast, I'm grabbing him. We're going to see what we can do for you, Chris.
You're great. And I'll give you such a special mention, on the show for this.
You don't even have to.
I love it. Oh, but another thing, because you're an avid cruiser, and I am too.
Right.
I'll tell you the one that I am so determined to get at some point is that we've got female captains on cruise ships. One that gets a lot of notoriety, and I can what's her name? oh, not McCall. I can't think of her name.
I
right
can't
now.
help you. I'm sorry.
Okay. At any rate, she's with McHugh, Captain McHugh on Celebrity.
Oh,
and I
okay.
think she was on Celebrity Eclipse. At any rate, she's looks like a model, you know, and you see her there, you know, piling. She's captain of this cruise ship.
Fantastic.
And I thought, oh, that's somebody I'd love to get on, because I think, you know, again, the women are starting to crash through that ceiling.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
I think it's so important to give them the recognition.
I could not agree more. And one thing that I loved, one of your podcasts I was listening to, you were talking about staying healthy and, you know, keeping your body moving so that it will keep moving, and you know, kind of the age factor there of just because you are a woman of a certain age, or really anyone of a certain age, but this happened to be a woman, you know, go for it. You know,
Exactly.
if you think you could be the ninja,
There
warrior,
you go.
you know, go for it. And I really, I love that so much.
Well, I love, and I feel it with you too, with your podcast shows, is that it's nice to be able to empower, you know, people. You know, it's we all have that. And I always said, you know, it's like, you know, there are so many people, you know, who may never achieve a tremendous amount of success or earn a tremendous amount of money, but you know what? They've got something inside of them, a hidden story, a gem, something that needs to be told that makes them, you know, a shining star. You know, and I those are the people that I love to get on the show. You know?
Totally agree, and that's what I've said too in some of my podcasts. You know, everyone, what you just said, the person that you may be standing next to back when you could stand closer than 6 feet, if you chat with them, they will have them. One day I was picking my son up from school, just chatting with his grandmother. She was a grandmother of a child, and lo and behold, she was at Pearl Harbor the day.
Oh my God!
Yeah, and so she was the most mousy, little quiet grandmother, but she had this big story to tell, so you never know.
Well,
and
you know, it's true. When I was flying for United Airlines years ago, when they were called stews and not flight attendants, I remember.
And you were hot.
No,
I've seen you.
But I gotta tell you something. What was funny is that there was this little old lady sitting in first class or coach, wherever, and I remember after the meal service, I sat down and we were talking. Well, as it turned out, she remembered, but she was a little girl, the 1906 earthquake in San Francisco, and she started telling me stories about it. I mean, one story after another. I mean, I sat there and I was just like, whoa.
Yeah. Oh, man.
So, you know, you look back and you don't appreciate all that when you're really young.
You don't.
But I guess when you get some miles on you can look back and say, you boy, you know, only I knew then and appreciated then what I can appreciate now.
Boy, Chris, isn't that the truth? If we could just go back and take the time to sit down with our families more and go, tell me everything. So, but we don't, you know, we don't. So, but everything that you're doing, you're just the most fun. When I have to tell my listeners, when you were so sweet to do the interview a few years ago, and we found that little clip of you. Am I embarrassing you? Will you tell?
No, I think I am honored. I mean, who would have ever thought that song would have gotten picked up by some Japanese artist? And the next thing I know, it's on YouTube, and I'm going, get out of here. I mean, that song I wrote when I was supposed to be studying for finals at Marymount, and I was writing it in my girlfriend's bathroom. You know,
I love that story so much. And tell the name of the group, because it's super cool.
Oh, it was a real 60s title. We were called the Boutiques.
I love it.
And we faked our way into a recording contract with Columbia Records by making them think we were all from England. So they had the first girls group from England. What they had were the first girls group from the San Fernando Valley in California, but they didn't know it. So we did record. That was our first song that we recorded on Date Label. And then they found out, of course, where we were all from.
I mean, that you can't make that stuff up. I mean, that stuff.
It really happened. That really happened.
It was just so much fun. It
was just hard trying to keep the British accent when, oh my God, it was just so, your brain would be cracking. Oh my
See,
God.
you were destined to be a podcaster years later because you started with the boutiques writing your music. And in writing, you are a traveler. You are a wonderful travel agent. You are
thank you.
a podcaster. You just juggle so many things, and you were so gracious to take time today.
Sweet.
And I know I drove you crazy sending you emails but I just wanted to make sure that it all came together because I respect you and what you do so much, Chris.
Man, you're so sweet. I mean it. You are so sweet. And I mean, I just, I appreciate your reaching out to me. I love doing the show. I think you are excellent. You are wonderful. You need to submit yourself in your shows, seriously.
Because thank you for saying that because I appreciate that, Chris. I really do. That means a lot to me.
I mean it. You go out there, you submit yourself, and then I'll have you on the show, and we'll promote your award. Okay?
Okay, that's the deal. What have I missed that the listeners need to know about you or what you're doing?
Lord. Lord.
Well, at least tell everyone how to reach you once again. Refresh everybody.
Well, here's what they can do. If they would like to get in touch with me regarding On Cue, you can reach me at Chris, CHRIS, as in Sam, Chris at it's Chris at chrisoncue.com. Okay? And I will get back with them. And if they, I'm just trying to think for Abbott and Costello, we put out an amazing newsletter every month. We have a wonderful fan base on Facebook, and they can contact any of us, at AC Collectibles at AOL.com.
Okay, good.
Okay,
perfect. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here, Chris. I mean it. I cannot. You're so fun. I look so forward to this because you're just fun. And
thank you.
I will be buying your audiobook because I run around and try to get exercise and have my headphones on all the time. So I'm definitely going to do that.
Well, you let me know. You let me know how you like it.
Oh, I will. I will definitely do so. And
beautiful.
Thank you. And to my listeners, I want you to know this podcast, as always, will be on our website, northpalmbeachlife.com. You can always find them there. They're on Spotify, iTunes, Pandora, and many other platforms. But they are always at northpalmbeachlife.com, where you will also find the story I did a few years ago about this wonderful woman. Gives you a little bit more information about her there and also her picture. And Gary will be making a beautiful page just for this podcast for Chris with her photos. Chris doesn't know that yet. I didn't tell her that. And you'll be able to see this wonderful woman on that page. Be sure to listen, to comment, contact her, go listen to her on Cue, but be sure to stay tuned.